Hello, Cross and all. Welcome back. This is the first of three shorter sessions this afternoon. This one's entitled Getting the Most Out of Technology in Schools. We all need to know that at the minute, don't we? And this is going to be led by Annie MacIver. Welcome, Annie. Annie, you won't be able to see Annie, but you will be able to see her presentation in a minute and hear her. Because of difficulties with putting on the camera, but there we are. Doesn't matter. You can see me. Anyway, I just a little bit of blurb to start. So getting the most out of technology in schools, the DFE Educational Technology Demonstrator Program. We have seen a leap forward in the use of technology by educators through the pandemic. Certainly have. Annie MacIver from the Department of Education Digital Strategy Team will set out how use of technology has changed, how the Department for Education plans to build on this, and the current digital offer available to schools and colleges. Oh, over to you then, Annie.
Thanks very much, Angela. I'm sorry for not being able to turn on video, and I've got an error message that has now popped up, which is stopping me from sharing my slides, but I will proceed without them. Hello, it's a huge thank you for inviting me to speak. I think talking about use of technology with the kind of young leaders in schools and the next generation of future school leaders feels like exactly the right thing to do. All of what I'm describing, all the support is kind of in your court about setting out what the education system of the future looks like. So thank you again for inviting me. As I said, my name's Annie MacIver. I'm from the DFE Digital Strategy Team. We're a team that was set up in response to the laptop rollout, particularly to think about, okay, if we're committing to getting 1.85 million devices in schools, what are we going to do with them? I am the head of capability in that division. So my work is particularly about supporting educators, so leaders, teachers, as well as support staff, to more effectively use the technology that's available to them. As we know, technology can make things better, but in the case of my Zoom client today, I feel like I'd much rather be standing in front of a room full of people. It would have been probably a little bit more smooth. So that's my introduction. I'm still getting this error message, so I'll just keep on cracking on without slides. But I hope everyone can hear me and everyone can hear what I'm saying, and I'll
we can hear you clearly, Annie.
Brilliant. I'll do my best David Attenborough voice instead to make up for not having some slides. So the first slide I was going to show you was to set out some of the kind of changing use of tech, which Angela referred to. So as Angela said, the pandemic has leapt forward how schools and educators in terms of how technology has been used, both to run schools, but also to enable changes in teaching and learning. And schools and colleges have been telling us about the opportunities tech has enabled, both before the pandemic, but also during the last 18 months. At the same time, we've also heard about the challenges, particularly of implementing technology quickly, and the additional burden by delivering remote education. So we've heard countless stories. If you're on your laptop and you want to check out a report that we published ahead of the summer, you can go to bit.ly/edtech survey 0412, or just Google EdTech survey, and it's on gov.uk, and that set out some of the data behind this. I'll talk through that. I know it's hard to listen to, but I've still got my error message and my wheel of death on my Zoom browser. So the first one is that the number of secondary head teachers who said that they upgraded technology was 97%. Unsurprisingly, the biggest one to be setting up a learning platform, but also for digital devices and technology to enable live remote learning with the biggest areas of upgrading technology. Then also the other thing that we captured in that report was that the sense of the benefits of that tech. So with 88% of heads and 84% of teachers saying that tech had or would contribute to improved pupil attainment, and 74% of heads and 65% of teachers it looks like we're I may now have slides. Brilliant. Right, here we go. Yeah, I saw the big thumbs up there. And let's get that up. Great. Angela, can you see the whole presentation now?
Yep, brilliant.
Brilliant. All right, and I've now lost the chat bar, so if someone does chat or interact in some way, please do flag to me, and I'll just keep cracking on. So yeah, I was on the second bullet, which is the data on the benefits of the perceived benefits of technology, and particularly seeing those benefits in a few kind of key areas. So financial management, engaging with parents, governance, pupil data management, timetabling, collaborating and sharing resources, tracking pupil program, planning lessons, curriculum content, and delivering lessons. Quite a lot of areas, but there are some areas where technology was perceived to have less impact. So that was formative and summative assessments, and then supporting pupils with SEND. So some of the accessibility features and assistive technology is the area in which teachers say the software or hardware least meets their needs. But that is a bit of the data which I think captures some of the stories we've been hearing the experience of the last 18 months. So the to tackle some of these challenges, particularly, the department provided a range of support through the pandemic, and I know that there was also a huge amount of investment from schools and colleges themselves, from civil society, and from the EdTech sector, who by making platforms and products available for free. I've detailed a few here. Probably the most familiar would be Get Help with Technology, providing laptops. There's also the Platforms program, which recently closed to support schools set up Google or Microsoft platform. The EdTech demonstrator program, which I'll describe in a bit more detail. The National Star Send Hub, which is particularly to support using technology to support SEND learners. A sustaining digital and remote education, a toolkit for school leaders, not a snappy title, but an absolutely brilliant online training course for school leaders, bringing together everything you need to know about quality and delivery for remote education provision. A remote education service, bringing together all advice and guidance and resources, and then Connect with the Classroom, a program to support schools in particular areas with their Wi-Fi networking. So that is a bit of the support we've provided during the pandemic. Now, we want to build on this, and we think that to do so, we need to work with schools and colleges to do three kind of core things. The first is kind of at the bottom of this pyramid is support with technology and infrastructure. So we think there's some core things that schools need to have to use technology to run their as an organisation, but also to, if they choose to, for teaching and learning. That is having a good enough broadband connection, that is having networking to get Wi-Fi in the classroom, and that is also having cyber and e-filtering to make sure that technology is used safely. We know that not all schools have this, and particularly we're working on DCMS to try and tackle schools who struggle to have a sufficient broadband connection. I know that broadband, there's really bad, and then there's quite like just about okay, and broadband is just one of those things where the trying to keep up with the amount of what we're trying to do with the internet connections is so hard. So it's a kind of core area of focus for us. The second one is capacity and capability. So we know, as I described, if you don't know how to use it, if you haven't had the time to invest in training, or if the product isn't designed super well, then tech doesn't make things better, it often makes things worse. So we think it's really important that we work with schools to get that support in place where it's needed. And finally, kind of at the top, so setting out how you train, how you use your technology and manage it is strategy. So also how schools, colleges and trusts have a strategy for how they are using technology to run, but also to support their school improvement objectives. So those are our three core things. I'll talk a bit more about the EdTech demonstrator network, which I think this is the kind of core kind of offer from the department to schools, colleges and trusts. There's also a free kind of open to access to everyone program of resources and webinar program that I'll highlight, and then I'll give time for questions when and maybe hope that by this point my video will have switched on. In a nutshell, we want to support the long-term and sustained adoption of technology. We think that there's a broad set of objectives to do this, which the programme can help with. That is to help use technology to address improve learning outcomes, particularly where the school wants to might want to have an area of focus. So where, you know, Ofsted's saying, how are you thinking about your maths at Key Stage 3, or your particular area for the school, using the how we can use technology to hone in on that and enhance what's happening. The second one is reducing teacher workload, particularly in some of the areas we discussed earlier. I think there's also here about creating more modern working conditions, whether that's online parents' evenings, whether that's you know, I remember being a teacher and calling all my parents when I needed to. How do you communicate in a more modern way? And as well as collaborating on documents online, not constantly sending things as emails and reattaching and losing things, and reducing teacher workload in those ways. Supporting with school and college improvement plans. I mentioned, kind of about learning, but also about other areas that school and colleges are focusing on. School and college resource management, particularly, you know, about the more efficient use of technology, trying to streamline the products being used, manage the costs associated with them. And then finally, securing an accessible and inclusive curriculum, including for pupils with SEND and excluded pupils and students. And some of the demonstrators are really, there's a pilot running in one of the demonstrator areas about using technology to inspire primary school students who are at risk or have been excluded. And it's something they're really passionate about, how technology can support in that space. That's what we want the programme to do. And on the right is a box on how it runs and how it does that. So they have a network of sites across different phases. They work with all sorts of from a single school to a bigger group of a bigger trust, and with a kind of different tiers or different levels. So maybe some schools come for 6 hours to initially try and crack a difficult nut, but then there is also an offer to kind of set out an extensive digital strategy, which takes over a longer period. We work with United Learning as a programme delivery partner and have done since May, and schools that were supported last year, which was the programme particularly just focused on remote education, and that was delivered by London Grid for Learning, can also sign up again for the programme, which has a slightly different emphasis this year. So that's in a nutshell why the programme exists and how it does what it does. And this, if you want to just see kind of the overall national offer, there's a couple of things I'll highlight here. There is a national webinar programme, which I've put a couple of the upcoming webinar sessions. So one you have on moving beyond lockdowns and remote learning, and the other one is about choosing which tools to in different contexts. There is also a resource library, which I put a screenshot of, where you can see there's a kind of a range of resources from documents, but also videos, things that can be kind of deployed straight in different contexts, broken down against different categories, whether that's the products that are used or the objective of using them. And I know whenever I use it so much in the Department for Education, when a policy official says, oh, how can we use technology to do this? I'm like, oh, well, we've got a resource for that. There is also a community of practice for supported schools and demonstrators to share their experience and learn from each other and build those informal networks that help people progress and learn in complex areas. It's not. I also have put here again. It's not from the demonstration program itself, but we work with Sandringham College, who are absolutely brilliant, to do a free online training program in remote education. So that if you're also looking for just kind of an overall offer, that is that, and it's aimed at school leaders. So it probably is something if you're looking ahead to have a look at. And if you want to access support, I've popped the website there. It's free to all state-funded schools and colleges in England. Oh, sorry, they've got a bit of an is there. You can spot different sites you might want to partner with, and it's got some notes there about allocation. So that is a bit of a, I guess, a bit of a plug for the demonstrator program, as well as a canter through how the government wants to work with schools and colleges to get the most out of technology. I've got a couple of questions for you. I know you probably it's a Saturday, you've had a busy day. Happy to also take anything by email, which I'll bring up at the end. But yeah, if you there are thoughts of also from the facilitators on the current challenges and opportunities in using technology effectively in your context, or anything you found particularly helpful in using technology as young leaders, then I'd love to hear it.
Brilliant, thank you, Annie. Nobody's put anything in the chat yet, so I'll answer some of that. I'm not a young leader, I'm a very old dinosaur in the classroom, and the learning curve that we've had to have over the last 18 months has been really steep, but it's been totally worth it, I think, in my opinion. We've had a revolution in the classroom, but it's totally updated. I think, I think we were moving in that direction, weren't we? We were all, as teachers now, thinking, well, we need to embrace technology, and as leaders and in schools to share things and whatever. But it just accelerated that process, and it was a bit of a shock. But I don't know anyone would want to go back to those old ways. And exactly what you said there about parents' evenings, they've just been revolutionized in my school. Now they're all online. There's no way we'd ever go back to having 200 parents squashed into our school hall going round teachers. It's just, I work in a big secondary school, obviously. It's just much better to be able to talk to parents in private and using this. It's much better. I mean, I don't know, I can't see if anybody else has put anything else up there. I tell you what else I'm disappointed in, though, because as you can tell from my accent, Annie, I'm a teacher in Wales. And can you say, do any of the other devolved nations have a similar sort of program or not? I haven't heard of this in the great and glorious kingdom that is Wales, but
yeah, I should have said that. Thank you for reminding me. Classic DfE civil servants. So they don't have a similar program that I'm aware of. They do have lots of really brilliant things. So we do work with the devolved administrations, so the Welsh government and the Scottish government, and on their, I think it's the hub, and then I can't remember what so it's their kind of the platform for learning. I think that's something which we look on in admiration, but we're really conscious of that, trying to make that work across a bigger group of schools with a more kind of a wider number of contexts is a bit more challenging to do. So but I'm not aware of anything, but like I said, they have a different approach. So I think for us,
we use Hub in Wales, Hub, which is all teachers have a user sort of click on with, and it really has expanded how we share things. As I say, I've taught in my career has been in this rural mid Wales idyll. And I might have met a couple of colleagues in my subject area once or twice a year, maybe, or even every couple of years. But this has enabled us to share things faster, to learn from each other, to share resources. I think it's definitely better. And I think that young professionals coming in are going to have a much wider access to resources and expertise than older ones like I did. So it is much better when it works, of course. Yeah. And as you said, I mean, the internet provision is not the same everywhere, is it? I mean, we're lucky here. We've got quite a good broadband width where we are, but I know that isn't the same everywhere. And until we can upgrade that so everybody has equal access, it's not, that is something we have to look at, isn't it?
No, absolutely. And I think the government's investing a huge amount in trying to improve broadband. But I remember looking at the teacher tap data about going into the I think it was the second lockdown, maybe the third lockdown, and asking teachers, do you have better Wi-Fi at school or at home? And particularly for primary students, lots of saying at home. And it constrains what you can do so much. But it will be a thing of I was in a school in Docklands a couple of weeks ago, which is not a place, you can throw a stone, you'll hit the city of London. It's not a place where you'd expect to be struggling for broadband, and this is a really digitally mature school, but it is that thing where the more you're trying to do, the better the connection you need for the broadband for the school, and then the networking in the classroom. And I think particularly, getting the right help to work all that out is really hard. And that's a lot of what the kind of referral to the demonstrator program is schools saying, well, we've done this, whether that's devices or the learning platform, and it's just opened this can of worms. We can see the opportunities, but there's so many things to work through to make this work in our context.
Yeah, but I think the will is there with everybody now, I think, and everybody sees that it is necessary. I won't get political, but people did sort of laugh a bit at Jeremy Corbyn when he said that internet should be free for everybody, and you can see that he has a point to make us as a 21st century country. That's exactly what we need. Everybody needs good internet access at home and at work and in school and everywhere, don't they? Anyway, and that was a bit political, really. I shouldn't have got into that. But Annie, thank you very, very much for joining us. I will. You put the link up there, which is brilliant. And if people do have questions, they know where to contact you, and they can ask us, and we'll be the conduit to get them to you. I am going to have to close this bit now because we've got to go straight into the next session where we've got our next speaker ready. So everybody needs to leave this, and you'll be doing it far quicker than I will. Click on the next link to the next webinar where we'll be joined by Sinead. Okay, so thank you, diolch o galon, Annie. Thank you very much, and see you all in a little while.